Hello, I'd like to convene the first single-family design board for 2022. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll begin roll call. Chair Miller.
Here.
Vice Chair Kalas is absent. Board Member Ara Kellyan is absent. Board Member Brentlinger.
I think you're muted, David.
Rookie mistake. Present.
Thank you. Board Member Klein.
Here.
And Board Member Motisha.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the general business agenda. Item A is election for chair and vice chair, but I was notified by the city due to the fact that Vice Chair Kalas and Mr. Arkalian are not here. We're going to postpone those elections. Is that correct, Ms. Burkhart?
Yes, that's correct. We'll postpone them till February 1st, 2022.
Okay.
Is that time rolling around again?
I know.
It seemed like just yesterday.
I agree. Scary.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to item B, the 2022 appointment of consent review representatives and subcommittees. Ms. Burkhart, how do we do that?
We'll also postpone this item of general business to February 1st, 2022. I would like board members Kalas and Arkalian in attendance for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Then we'll move on to item C, public comment. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within its jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for the public discussion. Ms. Burkhart, do we have any of those?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on an item not on today's agenda, please follow the directions on screen and raise your hand by clicking the hand icon at the bottom of your screen. While we wait for hands, Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence for items not on today's agenda?
Thank you. We received one general public comment from Marsha Cutler and Lynette Bayard, and that was distributed to the board prior to this meeting. And at this time, I do not see any hands raised, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item D, the approval of minutes of the single family design board for December 20th, 2021. Again, I believe the city has informed me that we're postponing that till Ms. Kalas and Mr. Arkalian are present. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair Miller. We don't have a quorum without them, as Mr. Brentlinger won't be able to vote on the approval of the minutes today. So we'll postpone that also to February 1st, 2022.
Okay, thank you. However, we can approve the consent calendar for January 10th. Is that correct?
We can review January 18th.
Okay.
The other, we'll be looking at January 10th, and also we need to redo December 13th, but we'll do that February 1st, 2022 as well.
Okay, so can we approve the minutes for January 18th or
Yes.
just review them? Oh, we can.
Yes,
okay.
we can approve those. Yes.
Okay, may I have a motion for approval of January 18th, please?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Ms. Burkhart, can we go through the items, please?
Of course.
I apologize. This is Heidi Rydell. I'm controlling the plans. I pulled up the agenda rather than the minutes. So if you give me just a moment, I will fix that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Burkhart and Ms. Fennessy, I do not see the draft consent minutes from January 18th, 2022 in the folder. I don't know if someone is able to drop those in quickly.
Let's see. Oh, let me check with Ms. Fennessy outside of the meeting if she can do that. One moment.
Okay.
Okay, we should be getting them pulled up in just a moment. Thank you for your patience. Okay, there we go. We can go ahead with these, Chair Miller.
Okay, great. So I guess I'll have you go through them, Ms. Burkhardt.
Okay. Yes. Item A was for 712 Arbolado Road. The action was for final approval with comments. Item B was for 1224 West Mitchell Terrena Street. The action was for final approval as submitted. Item C was for 2007 Gillespie Street. The action was for final approval as submitted. Item D was for 1930 Mission Ridge Road. The action was for project design approval and final approval with comments. And item E was for 1035 Sima Linda Lane. The action was to continue the item to the indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. I won't read them, but here they are on screen.
Okay. All right, thank you. Hearing no changes or comments, may I have a roll call, please?
Actually, Chair Miller, I would like to ask Board Member Motisha if he could help us clarify a couple of things on the motion for item E.
Sure.
Number 2 says the board finds that the two scales and elevations don't match. I believe, Mr. Motisha, you were referring to the difference between the elevation and the renderings. Is that correct?
Elevations of proposed and pictures, or no. Yeah, pictures and then elevations of proposed changes. Sorry, that's on the back on the west. It would be the west elevation. It was the difference of the two proposed elevations that were drawn. They didn't match.
I believe that is correct, Barbara. It was an elevation, and then the other one was a rendering that looked like an elevation.
Yeah.
Of the same elevation, essentially.
Okay.
One on the front, I think there was, oh, that's number 4, I think.
Yes, and number 4, I believe that reads correctly. Would you agree? Board Member Motisha and Klein, you were there also.
Yes.
Okay. That was my only clarification. Thank you. We'll
All right,
update
thank you.
that to make that note or make that clearer.
Okay. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll start the roll call vote. Board Member Brentlinger,
In favor?
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item F, announcements, requests by applicants or continuances and withdrawals. Any future agenda items and appeals. Do we have any of those, Ms. Burkhardt?
Yes, thank you. I have a couple announcements. I first would like to welcome Mr. David Brentlinger to the board. Today is his first meeting with us. He'll be serving as the public at large member. We're happy to have you, Mr. Brentlinger. Welcome to the SFDB.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
And then I would also like to announce that this will be my last official day staffing the SFDB. I'll be transferring over to staff Historic Landmarks Commission as Mr. Hamilton has accepted a position outside this city. So for the interim, this board will be staffed by Ms. Pilar Plummer for our full board and Ms. Heidi Rydell for consent level projects. And I'll be working with them to help make a smooth transition as possible. But I just want to say it's been a pleasure to work with you all the past year.
Well, welcome. Well, we'll miss you.
Yeah, I'll miss you guys too. Thanks.
And I see Ellen Kokinda is on. And what is her position?
Yes, so Mr. Chair and board members, I just wanted to, many of you I know already, Ellen Kokinda. I am the acting design review supervisor. So many of you know that Irma Unsueta retired after multiple decades working with the city of Santa Barbara so she retired back in December, and I am going to be the interim design review supervisor. So I will be helping with this transition and making sure that that you all are supported and that we get everybody trained properly. So thank you so much. And I look forward to working with you more. And I just want to say that the city did post to fill the position of the design review supervisor. And I think it actually closes in several hours. So that's been posted for about a month now. And so we should be, hopefully will be more information on that soon when a replacement can be made. So thank you again. Look forward to working with you.
Ellen, are you getting that position or are you just intern?
I'm an interim. I'm just in the acting position. So this will just be an interim handoff until we hire someone, a permanent replacement.
Yeah. We on the board we see your faces and we see what you do, but we don't know how long you've been doing it and which positions you would rather have.
I know. Well, it's funny. I get to do lots of different things, so I enjoy that. But yes, I definitely helped out with a lot of the remote Zoom stuff. So that's why you saw me for a long time. But happy to be back in a slightly different way. So yeah, look forward to working with you. Thanks again, and back to you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And also, Mr. Brentlinger, would you like to say a little bit about yourself and what makes you, what was your calling that had you join our review board?
Good question. I come to this business from the real estate development side. And in that capacity worked on a few master plan communities where we actually had to write design guidelines. And then I was also head of the architectural review board for those communities. So I've looked at a lot of blueprints and a lot of color samples and that sort of thing, as well as had to write up a lot of different kinds of design guidelines for commercial and residential. So I've got some history doing that, and I'm relatively new in Santa Barbara. I thought it'd be a good way to get a feel for the city and get to know the neighborhoods.
Oh, great. Welcome. Well, one of the things I'd like to, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but one of the things that we have for the city of Santa Barbara is our design guideline booklet. If you're familiar with this is sort of our Bible.
A copy. Yeah, Barbara sent me a copy of it, and I've started leafing through it. There's a lot in it.
Yeah.
So I haven't memorized it quite yet, but in time, I'm sure.
You have 2 weeks.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
But yeah, you'll be noticing when you're on our board that we tend to get a little emotional. And one of the great ways to kind of break yourself out of the emotions is to base your findings on that book. And as you become more comfortable, more familiar on our board, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, I look forward to coming up to speed.
All right, great. Thank you. Welcome. Okay.
So we
yes.
did Jonathan.
I'm sorry?
Jonathan. Brian, I'm asking you, we did lose Jonathan.
Yeah, I believe Jonathan is stepped down. Is that correct, Ms. Burkhart?
That's correct. He termed out. Yeah, he's no longer on the board.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Yes. Okay, moving on to item G, subcommittee reports. I don't believe we have anything at this time. Is that correct, Ms. Burkhardt?
That's correct.
Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to our first item, 1383 Shoreline Drive. This is a new item for concept review. Proposal to demolish an existing single-story, single-unit residence and construct a new two-story, single-unit residence with an attached garage. The project includes associated site and landscape improvements, a new pool, a pool amenity structure. The proposal total of 2,619 square feet on a 6,191 square foot lot is 96% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. Planning Commission review and approval is required for a coastal development permit. No final appealable action will take place at this hearing. Neighborhood preservation findings will be required and be made for the project design approval. Do we have a representative for this project?
Thank you, Chair Miller. I'm going to give some staff comments, and then the applicant team will include Ken Radke, Adam Sharkey, and Stefan Parmesan.
Okay.
So if they're not currently promoted, it'd be good to get them on.
Okay.
So thank you, Chair Miller. The purpose of this afternoon's hearing is an initial concept review for a new residence at 1384 Shoreline Drive. As you noted in the project description, it does require Planning Commission review of a coastal development permit. Staff is looking for specific feedback about any consistency issues with the neighborhood preservation findings, general comments about size, bulk, and scale of the building. And, as it goes through the presentation today, I just like to have the board think about whether or not they would like to see it come back for an additional concept review prior to Planning Commission, or if it would be appropriate to continue indefinitely to Planning Commission for the coastal development permit. And lastly, I'm the case planner for the project. I'll be here if you have any questions throughout the meeting. And then otherwise, I'll turn it over to the applicant team. They did provide a presentation in addition to the plans that they'll be going through. Thank you.
Thanks, Pilar. I think Ken's going to start our presentation, but I think if Jaime and Debbie, the owners, are logged in, our hope is they could just say hi and thank the board for reviewing their project.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jaime and Debbie Perez, and we are the owners of the house at 1384 Shoreline Drive. We love being in Santa Barbara and our East Mesa neighborhood and the Shoreline Park directly across the street. And we're looking forward to creating a well-designed forever home that meets our family needs and fits the site that we love. It's we believe it improves our neighborhood, and we have family in town, and we are brand new first grandparents also. And so we're looking forward to the project.
We are excited to be working with the city and Blackbird Architects.
Thank you. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So Ken Radke from Blackbird here with Adam, Stefan, and Jaime and Debbie Perez, the property owners. We thought we would start with this little street view because we thought it kind of gives you one quick overview. You'll be familiar with Shoreline Drive on this East Mesa area, 1384. And you can see the sort of mix of two and one story houses in the neighborhood. And we'll come back to this next. And we can just click through this PDF. I'm not sure. Yeah, there you go. So here you can see, as you're all very familiar with Santa Barbara and the Mesa, and this project is sort of like the middle western end of the East Mesa, if you will. And the next image is a little closer, a little more informative. Here you can see, looking south towards the ocean, where the yellow circle is the property site, and it's at the far end, the western end, across from the western end of Shoreline Park, the parking lot there. And, you know, it's Chair Miller and members of the board, it's just a really great, fun neighborhood and a great fun project and clients to work with. And you're familiar with this entire East Mesa was developed pretty much in one shot in the early 50s. So the existing house that we're proposing to replace is from 1953. So we go to the next. You can see the direct overview situation, these series of small rectangular lots. And we could go to the next. Zooming in, you'll see this neighborhood, as you guys are keenly aware, is going to be changing out its housing stock, if you will, because these original houses from the 50s just don't. They've served many of us would consider them to have served their purpose. They're old, they leak, they have dry rot, they have weird small rooms, they've had weird additions over the years, etc. So if we go to the next one. Here you can see this is the existing house, and there's a couple of interesting things to talk about this. The predominant form in the neighborhood is that garage is on the front, oftentimes with a drive-in and driveway turnaround that takes up a better half of the front, as well as a fair portion of these small lots is devoted to driving around on these small lots. And another thing about these property owners, Jaime and Debbie, is they moved here because they love this neighborhood. Those are their two chairs there, and they love sitting out in the neighborhood, seeing people with their dogs and their walks, and the sort of neighborhood characters who love this neighborhood. They're joining those characters, and those are their two chairs, but they're essentially sitting on their driveway for their coffee every morning. Their whole idea in being in the neighborhood is to participate and to enjoy, be seen, and be a part of the neighborhood. Next. Looking to the left, to the west, you'll see essentially a mirrored house, built at the same time, which is again a very common form, and this car-oriented frontage. And then if you go to the next one, the photo looking along, raking towards the neighbor, you'll see that their immediate neighbor has been renovated with a fairly large second story. And we can go to the next. This site, the neighbor has renovated the plaster to include the standing seam roof and substantial second floor with upstairs decks. And interestingly, if you go back one slide, I apologize, I won't go back very much. Here, the garage was, as so many of these places, it was previously used as quasi-living space, and the garage is in the best view spot on the property currently. Next. And then next. The view across the street. And again, all of these properties participate in the sidewalk, the street, the bike lanes, the grass, the multiple sidewalks in play across the street, and then of course the ocean views. Next. From a sort of site planning and planning point of view, this is the existing situation, and you can see that the existing situation doesn't conform to the setbacks. The garage is in the setback, and so essentially the entire front third of the parcel is taken up by garage and car maneuvering. And so our proposal is to bring the property development into conformance with the planning and zoning rules, and to actually minimize the amount of space devoted to car maneuvering. Next. This is the site plan. And so we're reorganizing so that the garage, you just drive straight in, and that allows room there on the left-hand side for a nice 10 by 20 foot patio where Jaime and Debbie could sit, have coffee, play with their young relatives, and be a part of the neighborhood. And so there's garden and patio on the front now that could really be appreciated and kind of interacting with the neighborhood. You'll see as well that it's a little family house in a beach neighborhood, and they want to play in the backyard with a small pool. And we'll see in the floor plan how the front actually connects to the back. Next. This is a landscape plan. These small lots here on the mesa don't have a lot of room for landscape per se, but a native and drought tolerant, low water using landscape to form, and you'll see some use of that as well, to form a green context and a garden context for this life in a beach neighborhood. And then Adam may carry on from here.
Sure, we can go to the next slide. The floor plan, as Ken said, we've sort of reorganized. Garage is moved. Nothing's in the setbacks, no modifications needed, but we've moved the garage over from this sort of out of the setback and towards the side. On the left side, we have this sort of connected open living, entry, dining, and kitchen that then connects to a back small deck that transitions down to the outdoor use area. So trying to make the main use areas, the house, inviting, open, and connecting the front to the back. Then on the eastern side, compact, effective, sort of planned bedrooms and bathroom areas. If we go to the next slide, we'll see there's a small second floor element, which is using the area above the garage as a small sort of view deck orientation out towards the park and the coast. So a stairway to bring you up to that, a little landing zone where some storage and items to support that outdoor view use can be, and then using that element to bring in some natural light and bring that down through that open stairway into the kitchen and dining areas of the house. If we go to the next. Roof plan, fairly straightforward, just this small second floor element. The view deck is uncovered, and then just a hip roof form of the lower mass of the bedrooms, and then the slightly raised mass of the living, dining, kitchen. Next. This is the street elevation from Shoreline Drive. The palette is fairly simple, a kind of a warm, friendly, modern of a gray plaster stucco as the body of the majority of the exterior. Some stained wood, a sustainable treated wood as some of this sort of accent element, both on the second floor and at the front. Bronze anodized windows and doors, good energy use, durability, and sort of in keeping with the palette. And then a non-shiny medium gray metal roof to kind of match the window and door trim. We can go to the next. Back elevation, similar palette. You can see a large set of doors to make that sort of dining room be able to open up and connect out to the back. We can go to the next. Side elevations, these are adjacent to a landscape area in this sort of side setback area that has then fences on either side and at the back. We can go to the next. basic section showing the kind of varied massing and hip roof forms, the garage with the view deck above it, and the landing and stairway area from there. The other one that goes through the living dining kitchen, showing that sort of shoreline drive connection through and out to the back with the small pool. Next. Some model sort of massing views to give you a sense of the three-dimensional character of this sort of varied massing. So you can see the view deck above the garage, the sort of hip roof form for the living dining kitchen, the small raised second floor area, and the bedroom zone behind that. You can go to the next. Looking from the northwest area, you can see this sort of deck transition down to the small outdoor backyard area with the larger kind of accordion opening doors. Next. That's the kind of front view raised slightly, again, showing this sort of front garden approach and entry zone, and then the sort of straight reduced size kind of driveway vehicle area. Next. There's the front view from kind of eye level across the street. And then next. That's this sort of street elevation that Ken started with, showing adjacent and down the street a few houses. You can see the sort of varied style and palette of homes in the area that have these 1- and 2-story elements, many with plaster exteriors, variety of kind of roof forms and view decks. Next. Here's the kind of street perspective view from the east. So you can see the easterly neighbor in the foreground here, the pulled back, no longer in the setback garage and house, and then moving up the street to the neighboring houses. Next. Looking from the other direction, slightly from the west across the street, you can see this sort of idea of the front and the kind of massing in line with adjacent and homes and streetscape. Next. And from the kind of sidewalk further west area looking down shoreline, you can kind of see the sort of elements of the front, and we're just sort of along the line of these sort of park fronting homes. Next. That's our presentation. And so I think we can go back to the board at that point and be available for questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Burkhardt, I forgot to add, we should have a 15-minute clock timer for future projects. I forgot to.
Yes, Chair Miller, we have one behind the scenes. I don't know if we're able to have it on the screen like we used to. We did not go over 15 minutes.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with their presentation. It was a perfect
Okay.
presentation. I just thought of it.
Yeah, we're paying. Yeah, we'll work on that. It's nice to have up.
Okay, well, did we get public comment?
Thank you. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon located at the bottom of your screen. While we wait for hands, Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence for this item?
Thank you. We did receive 2 public comment letters from John and Lisa Miller and Francine and Jesse Lieber that were distributed to the board prior to this meeting. And I do see 2 hands raised, one from John Miller. So I will ask you to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm John Miller. Beside me is my wife, Lisa Miller.
Hi there.
And I don't know how familiar you folks are with the letters that we submitted, but first thing we mentioned was we own and live at 1390 Shoreline Drive, so we're the immediate next door neighbor to the west. To begin with, we are long-term residents of Shoreline Drive and have owned and lived in our home for 34 years. We are long-time appreciators of Shoreline Drive and the park. It's a unique, cherished area for so many residents and families that have ever come here. Now, summary of we have great sensitivity to thinking about shade. Is that home going to shade our entire backyard? Is it going to throw our home into shadows, making it much colder? You can refer to the letter that we have. Now, in finality, we have in a paragraph which we're talking about our concerns, but it says we will not object to this limited increase in roof height as it is proposed, but we would have strong objections should they come in for modifications looking for variances that destroy what we have and what we cherish. One comment I would make, in the beginning, is that a reason to allow a new design because the speaker asserted that the old cottages on the base are decrepit and leaking and moldy? That does not describe our home. Over the 34 years, we've maintained the cottage aspect because we admire it. I'm involved in community planning and have for 54 years as a developer. And we have kept ours beautifully. It's a jewel. Many of them are on here. I don't know who they're referring to, but I think they should have to defend themselves. And I don't think it's valid.
Thank you. And we have another hand raised from Francine Lieber. And I will unmute you, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Okay.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hi, well, we're the Liebers. We live directly behind the applicants and the new owners there. And I've been here almost 30 years, and I have a fantastic view, but I know that this is a sign of the times and things change. However, I was concerned very much with the height of their back fence, that we would share that border together, which is the north side of the property. And also if the plants that they're putting in are going to be obstructing our view, because we would be happy to have what little we would have left. It says, I saw it said they're avoiding large view blocking trees. And I just wanted to know if that was going to be in the plan as maybe under the protection of the Santa Barbara view ordinance. I don't know if that applies. I've done that before when the city was going to put trees in the park and sell names on them. I went to Marty Boone and they took those out. So I was just wondering if there was any way, I understand the going over more into the side yard, which narrows my corridor, which I don't really, I have no problem with that. Although I do have a problem if they put a large fence in the back and my property gets a lot darker and I see a lot less sky. And also the plants that are around their deck, I want to know, how are they going to be capped off? Or are they going to just let them grow like Italian cypresses? What their plans are, the intentions, and also what is the back elevation of that wall that they're putting in from their pool deck to the top? And really, we just trying to preserve what we've had all these years, because we love our view, but I understand this progress.
Thank you. And at this time, I do not see any more hands raised, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bertlinger, usually what I do is there's a list of who the board members are and I just go down the list. That way it kind of saves us time. So I'm just go down for questions. So if you have any questions, and Mr. Bertlinger, you're the first one on the list. So do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have just a couple of questions for the applicant. I'm also going to turn on my video here. And one is, it's kind of a technical question about the rear where the swimming pool is. And I was looking at the section drawing that you showed. I don't know if we can look at that one more time. I don't know what page it is, but it's labeled section. And it just is looking at the utility easement in the backyard. And it looks like the swimming pool is built into the easement. So just curious to know whether in Santa Barbara that's a permitted intrusion into a utility easement. And I don't know who may know the answer to that question.
Ms. Plummer, do you have an answer to that?
Hello, board members, and thank you for the question, Board Member Rettlinger. So yes, they'll need to provide verification that they can work within that easement, but otherwise, yes, that would be an allowed area.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing I would say is that I think you did actually a great job building an efficient home on this site and maximizing its utility. It does look like the eaves are probably less than what the rest of the street has in the way of overhangs, and that's just a stylistic aspect of the modernist look of this house, I believe. But just wondered whether you took that into consideration in terms of fitting the streetscape.
I can jump in on that. I think we have 2 feet as our standard roof overhang eave, and that's in part to make sure we're not needing variances for being into the setbacks further than allowed. 2 feet for the overall massing and sort of getting some protection on the sort of wall areas seems appropriate, and not sort of overhanging greater, but less than 2 feet wouldn't be desired, but we think 2 feet is a good place to be for this sort of approach to the massing.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the other houses on the street that had greater overhangs than that, at least based on the streetscape that you showed. So it wasn't a matter of being too big, it was perhaps being less than the neighborhood. But I think it is in keeping with the style of the house that you're going for. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, I have a few. Can you explain what's happening along the property lines for the size of the fencing or what you're proposing along there? And it's also plant material as well.
Sure, maybe we can go to the site plan or the landscape plan. We haven't figured out all the details yet, but the general intent would be for a low, fairly open fencing along the front yard to just sort of help define public sidewalk area to semi-public sort of outdoor, keeping views open for both looking into the property and out. I think that shows in some of the renderings, and that would sort of define the kind of front property line and side yard area in the front of the house. Once it gets past the house and garage, transitioning more towards a privacy kind of fence that would go along the side and back. Again, we haven't figured out the exact materials and other, but that would be not needing modification. So, no higher than the maximum allowed 8 feet. Somewhere in there we'll work out kind of situationally as we go. There's an open landscape kind of meadow feel of grasses and things that are in the front yard to keep the idea open. As has been mentioned, there's no sort of large trees proposed at all, just for open view considerations. And then a modest sort of ornamental landscape of low water use natives along the sides, and then in the back some screen, not high, no higher than the fencing, but just to give a good landscape, good feel to the outdoor use area in the back, and a landscape backyard.
Great, thank you. My other question is the hardscape material. I know it's early on, but have you thought of what the hardscape is going to look like or be, and consider permeability?
Yes, we're wanting the front driveway. We've been showing it as strips of concrete that would likely be over gravel and would be therefore permeable and allow for, that's the kind of front and lowest part of the site to make sure we're keeping stormwater on site and able to retain and treat it there. Other parts of the hardscape, depending on the particulars as we get into it around the pool and other, we'll look for opportunities to maximize permeability on the site, but also give good use area. And civil engineers won't want, the front patio will likely be impermeable just so we're not infiltrating right at the foundations of the house.
Great. Those are my only questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please? Unmute.
There I am. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Never know if I know I don't unmute myself or mute myself. Okay. You're asking for a 96% FAR. Yeah, it's close to what our guidelines are, and our guidelines are only recommended. I realize that. And some of the probably 3 or 4 of the houses in your neighbor, right adjacent to you on one, not on one side, but 2 houses over in another house. Are they high? Are they over our guidelines also? I'm asking because I like the house. I think the house stays within our guidelines, but it's a little high on FAR. And we need, as a board, to try to keep that down, because these are the houses that instigated this board in the first place, 7, 8, 9, how long ago was it, Brian? 10 years ago?
About 14 years ago.
14, okay, well, I chopped off 4 years. Anyway, the houses on Shoreline Drive were the houses that initiated this board. And I probably realized that every house on that street on Shoreline is going to be exactly what you're doing here eventually, except for one some friends of mine who will die in their house, which is probably pretty close to your house. Yes, if you could kind of convince me that the other houses in your direct neighborhood, that's within, a couple hundred feet of your house, are about the same size, I will not push this thing and allow at least myself, allow it to climb to 96 above our recommended 85%. That's a question to you, Adam Sharkey.
Sure.
Yes.
Hi, Board Member Matisha. Thanks for the question. As part of being over 85%, we turned in the 20 closest lot kind of FAR data. We're not the largest, as you say. It's interesting, and we could maybe look back at some of the early aerials there in the close vicinity, but the lot sizes as we go from our property, or I think one over to our west east, all those lots are very small. And FAR is a fundamental aspect of not only square footage of development, but also as a function of the size of the lot. And then once we're, I think, more than one property over to the west, the lot sizes get much larger. So those could have much larger homes than this home that would actually be a lower FAR percentage, just because once you get a few properties over, you're not in this sort of tract smaller lot development, you're into larger lots on the west. So relative to the size of homes in its vicinity, it's comparable. And then relative to the size of its lot, these lots along this frontage have the smaller lot sizes, these 6,000, 6,200 square foot lots. So that's, the house is just a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, modest. The garage counts as part of the FAR, needing to provide, for car parking and storage, and then just trying to have a well-articulated set of living spaces. The area up above to get out to that view deck, that does count, even though that amount of second floor area is very modest. And generally the amount of square footage compared to other properties which have a much more substantial amount of second floor square footage on their property, we've tried to keep the square footage on the ground floor, both for livability, but also just being mindful of massing and views.
Okay, thank you. To me, the elevations look like you have a glass door on your front garage door. Is that true?
Yes, as currently proposed, we would have translucent glass on the garage door, as well as on the front entry door. So you wouldn't be able to see in, you wouldn't see any cars or people, but it would let natural light in to both the garage space and the front entry.
Okay, well, I think this board is kind of tends toward, no more.
Just limit it to your straightforward questions. You could leave that for comments.
Okay, I'll save it for comments, just for your benefit, Brian. Good.
Okay.
That's all the questions I had.
All right. So,
sorry, one other question.
Sure.
We have next door neighbors, the Millers were, and he probably didn't have enough time to comment, and Katie brought this up about side fences and walls. The Millers have a wall in their backyard that is probably been there, quote, before the houses were built. And we probably have a guideline in our, rather than leave it up to the building department to decide what's going to happen to that wall. I think probably in landscaping or something, that wall, which is basically, I think, on the Miller's property, that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think.
You have a question, Mr. Motisi?
Yeah, I'm asking Mr. Sharkey that those, if he has addressed, I got to make this in a question. If he has addressed that wall and it is addressed in his presentation, that's my question.
Not too clear.
Generally, I think this relates a little bit to the question that came up before about the approach to fencing. So we've talked about low fencing in the front, some privacy fencing on the sides and rear. We'll need to make sure, I mean, obviously if walls are not on our property, those are the Millers, and but we're not asking for any modifications, and we'll work through the specific heights in coming back, but standard side and backyard fencing to just give some good privacy to the outdoor use is the intent.
Very good. Thank you. I will wait. I will hold my comment till later.
All right. Thank you. I have a couple questions. What are the plate heights, in particular, the plate height for the garage and the plate height for the first floor, and then the plate height for the second floor? And when I'm referring to plate heights, I also I know it's a raised floor, so
right.
I guess I'd like to know what the plate height or the ceiling height is from the finished floor or the first floor to the ceiling on the first floor, and then what the plate height is on the second floor.
So in general, this plan might be helpful. Just the garage is at grade, as you say. Yeah. And so the garage, the ceiling height is 9 feet in the garage from grade. The rest of the house is 2 feet up from grade. As you say, it's a raised floor. So there's a couple steps up. So this is standard for, and like the existing house was approximately 2 feet above grade. So all of the rest of the house is 2 feet above grade. For the massing breakup, as you were saying, so the view deck for the second floor is directly above the garage. So it's 9, there's a foot thickness of the floor packet. So it's the floor level of the back bedrooms is 9-foot ceiling. So a 9-foot plate for those bedroom areas. Above the finished floor, which is 2 feet above grade. The connected, longer open living, dining, and kitchen, the plate height is 12 foot 6 inches above finished floor, which is 2 feet above grade. And so then if we look at that section, you can see the second floor, that little room you get to before you go out to the view deck, that has a 9-foot ceiling as well. But we're locating that second floor element over the garage to have that second floor element be lower down. So it's in essence, I believe it's only 8'6" from the finished floor because we're locating the second floor over the garage area, which is set lower.
Gotcha.
Okay, I think those are my only questions at this time, so I'm going to bring it back to the board for comments. Mr. Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Not really. other than to say I do like the house. I think they'll get a lot of good use out of it the way it's designed. I would also, I guess, emphasize the need to just reconcile the fencing issue and make sure there's no disruption of the neighbor's fencing if it's on their property, of course. But those are my only comments.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I appreciate the renderings and the elevations. It really is helpful to tell the story of what's being proposed. I think aesthetically, the project works within the neighborhood compatibility, and the size, bulk, and scale and massing seem to be thoughtfully thought out. It's well below the max building height as well. The side and back fencing, I think, works well with helping with neighborhood privacy as proposed. The front fence, I don't really think is necessary. It's nice to have the front area feel more open when you're a pedestrian walking down the street. I understand there's reasons, owners want fencing, but personally and aesthetically, it's nice to have it more open, in my opinion. And it's a small lot, but wherever you can get more planting and permeability, I would support, specifically where the pool equipment is and the outdoor bathroom, possibly sneaking in a planter there or a vine to help with that space. And those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, my comments were, again, back to the translucent front garage door. Our guidelines don't object to that. I think we have brought that up in the past because it lights up the area and everybody is convinced that it does. And I am convinced, and I was on a board with Jonathan and I think with yourself, Brian, that tried to persuade people on the board that it didn't light up the area. It only lit up the translucent light in the door. But saying that aside, I think because it's on Shoreline Drive and Shoreline Drive needs to be lit up. It is lit up. It is, everybody goes up there. But I don't know, I have never really taken account to find out how many garage doors along that street are translucent and are not wood or some other material. Like I said, our guidelines do not require that one way or the other. It's more of a board decision. But personally, I support translucent garage doors because I like them. And I shouldn't say that, but I do like them. And other than that, I think the design of the size, bulk, and scale is excellent, and it does great wonders for the street. It looks good. I like it, and all the houses, and it complements all the houses in the area because it's different, and those houses are different down there. That's all my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So there's a couple of things I want to say first. I would request that the board be careful about how they comment about designs of home. It's not about our opinions, whether we like it or dislike it. Please limit your comments to what the neighborhood compatibility is to it, and base it on you feel that the compatibility of the design of the home is appropriate for this existing neighborhood. This is not a voting contest as what types of styles of architecture we like or what our opinions of architecture are. So please be mindful of that. So there's a few things I want to say about this house and a couple things I have comments about. I believe it's important that I think the style of the house is appropriate for the neighborhood, but I feel the size and the bulk is too large. I would recommend that the designer come back and try to get closer to the 85% FAR just for the fact that it's a small lot. I'm not saying you have to go down to 85%, but I feel you should really work at that. I think the plate heights are too high based on the bulk of the house in the already existing neighborhood. I'm basing that on the fact that it is in an already established neighborhood. And Mr. Motisha brought up the fact that indeed this design board was created from the Mesa for a neighborhood outcry of all these huge houses being built out of scale. So we got to be very careful and mindful of that. And also I cannot support the translucent garage door. I can see a row of windows on the top, but I have gone to parties at night where people have had translucent doors and they've lit the light inside, and all the piles of whatever they had shone out onto the driveway, and it was not exactly an aesthetic. It didn't have a positive impact of the look of the house, nor it's shining on the street. So I can't support translucent garage door. But like I said, I do support the style, but I can't support the plate heights at their current height. The other thing that I find kind of interesting is the garage. If we can go back to the front elevations real quick. Now, the forehead of the garage sort of sticks out. It's just like overpowers that elevation. I really like the left side and how you've put the front door and those windows and the overhang that really kind of flows really nicely. And all of a sudden you have this big boxy garage stuck to the side. So I'd really like you to study that and see if you can make that sort of blend a little easier with the way you have elevation on the left. And I've also noticed on your three-dimensional renderings, the thing that really does stick out is that garage structure. So I'd really like to see something to kind of lessen the height of it or something, but it just seems to conflicting with the elevation on the left. They're sort of fighting with each other. They're like inconsistent. So I'd kind of like to see some kind of a smoother transition of the two structures. So those are my only comments at this time. They're here for comments only. Would someone like to entertain a motion?
And Chair Miller, just before the board makes a motion on the project, I just wanted to remind you. So one of the things staff is looking for is whether or not you'd like an additional concept review, or if you're fine with it going to Planning Commission for the coastal development permit. They will obviously have to come back and address your comments before receiving any design approvals. But yeah, we would be looking for any type of feedback related to that. And I know a number of the board commented about size, bulk, and scale and general appropriateness to the neighborhood in terms of compatibility. So any specific comments about that in your motion? Thank you.
Yeah, I would request that whoever makes a motion that it does come back for us for another review. And if no one wants to come forward, I will go ahead and make a motion.
Chair
I'm sorry, sure, Mr. Redke,
Can I just make a comment or two?
Yeah.
Regarding the FAR, it's interesting. We studied the neighborhood pretty intensely, and we're not the biggest and we're not the smallest. Certainly, we're in like the bottom of the upper third, and the ones that are bigger than this project are where the neighborhood is heading, and those were all mostly approved recently. So in terms of just the FAR, it's a 3-bedroom house with a great room, and so it's not with the minimum mandatory garage included. So it's not. I don't think it's a big ask, and many of the board felt it was nice and compatible. It's a city house, and then one other thing about the size, bulk, and scale that you're talking about, just look right next door. That's a 2-story house that's
yes,
dramatically
in all due
taller.
respect, Mr. Redke, I don't think that house went before a design review board. That's the issue. They did not have to go before a design review board. So
it's a compatibility issue. Yep.
May I say something, Brian? May I say something?
Sure.
I think I don't think this board has. We have problems with the FAR, but I think that FAR could say close to what it is if the size, bulk, and scale, as Brian brought forward, could change a little bit. And that is what's happened to the house that's to the east. It's a different style house, and if the size, bulk, and scale is bigger, it's because the size, bulk, and scale doesn't make it look bigger than the FAR produces. That's all I have to say.
Yes, yes, that's true. I agree with what Mr. Motisha said. It's a recommendation. I'd like to see it reduced, and how Joe phrased it, that's actually appropriate. I just feel it's a little too big for where it is right now, and if there's some way you can work on it. But like I said, I'm not giving you a specific number. I'm not saying reduce it to 85. I just feel the size is a little too aggressive the way it's positioned right now. So take what I say and then, you know, it's not an, you see, I'm not speaking in absolutes here. So there's a little opening here where you can like, and then come back to us and say, well, this is what we think is the right way to do it. And then, but I'm not saying, I just, in my perspective of the already designed neighborhood, it's I would like to see a reduction in the FAR, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So.
Go ahead and make a motion, Brian.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion with the following comments. The board feels that the design and style of the house is appropriate for the existing neighborhood. However, the board would like to the designer to come back for a second review to study the possibility of lowering the plate heights, of also studying the relationship to the garage structure compared to the other part of the front of the elevation, whatever elevation facing that is. The board cannot support a translucent garage door, would like to see something that is not transparent, but the board does support a row of windows perhaps on the upper part of the door. The board would like to see a little more clarity in terms of the fence heights and how they relate to the other neighborhoods or the adjacent neighbors. And I believe that's my motion.
And I will second it.
Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Chair Miller,
yeah.
Before we get a roll call, could I ask you to clarify that you are asking for this project to return to the full board for another concept review?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to see this project return to the full board for concept review.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start the roll call vote. Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Okay, moving on to item 2. 1510 Santa Rosa Avenue. This is a new item for concept review. This is one of 2. Proposal to demolish a detached 400 square foot 2-car carport, construct a new 804 square foot basement, new detached 454 square foot 2-car garage, and new 783 square foot accessory dwelling unit, ADU above garage. The project includes a new 300 square foot deck for a new ADU, a new 350 square foot deck above existing family room for the primary residence, and the enclosure of the 33 square foot breezeway for a new habitable space. The proposal total of 3,567 square feet of development on a 13,503 square foot lot is 86% of the required floor to lot area ratio, FAR maximum. The coastal exemption has been granted for the project under the single residence exemption. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Neighborhood preservation findings will be required to make the for project design approval. I have a quick question to city staff. If we can go back to slide 1 of 2, just for my own edification. What is a coastal exemption has been granted? What does that mean?
That means they don't need to get a coastal development permit associated with this project.
Okay.
They're exempt from that, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Do we have a representative of our project, please, of this project?
We do. Mr. Mansfield, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. I'll send you a video request as well.
And you all can hear me now?
Great.
Yes.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chair Miller and members of the board.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay, well, I'd like to explain our project to you, our proposed project. I think the best way of explaining to the folks that perhaps don't understand the project completely is maybe if we go to sheet A204, which would be sheet 5 of 9 first. We can come back to the site plan after this. There we go. So what our project entails is the existing west elevation in the upper left corner. We're proposing to demo the existing carport and privacy wall for the breezeway between the carport and the existing residence. And then once that's been demoed, what we want to do is, of course, we want to add an enclosed 2-car garage, enclose that breezeway as well, just like it is today. And then, of course, add an ADU on top. Now, the existing architecture is a Mediterranean style. It's relatively unique to the area. So what we've been going back and forth on for quite some time is how do we design something that's going to be functional according to what our needs are, and have it fit within the existing architecture so that it kind of looks like it's all been built at the same time. That's the whole key. So what you're seeing on this particular sheet is you're seeing the existing elevations on the left, the proposed on the right. And one of the important things, and we can go to the site plan and I'll show you the differences, but the carport that will be demoed is at an angle that kind of protrudes into the drive. And as you can see on the elevations here, and you'll see them better in the 3D rendering views, is that we straightened the whole face out and made the proposed 2-car garage and the ADU above it flush with the existing residence. Let's go ahead and advance one page down. And let's continue another page. Here you may be able to get a better idea of, through the renderings, what our proposal is. And you can see what we have. If you look in the upper right corner at the view looking southwest, you'll notice the existing residence in the front. And what we have is below the proposed deck that you see clearly on top. Below that is an existing family room. And today that family room has a sharp sloped ceiling that the max height when it gets to the doors leading out to the backyard is about slightly over 7 feet. It's very low. What we're proposing to do is we're going to demo that roof area off and raise it. And that allows us to come up with that deck area on the top. And that was kind of unique to what we were trying to do here, so that we have an exterior staircase there that leads up to the ADU and goes across the front of the ADU entry and goes to that deck area, which is actually quite pleasant. And what's nice about that open deck out there on top is that, obviously you're entitled to some great views, but you also notice that it's pretty much right in the very middle of the property, which means it doesn't disturb any of the neighbors all the way around. In fact, you can barely see it if you look down at maybe the middle left rendering view. You can't even. That's about 6 feet from the middle of Santa Rosa Avenue there. If you're standing there in the middle of the road and you're 6 foot tall, you don't even see the deck up there, and you don't see much of the ADU as well. So we don't feel that the design as we see it now is is a major, obstacle to any of the neighbors. There is a neighbor right behind as you drive in the drive and you drive up the drive. It's shared by 3 different residences. And if we can go to the site plan now, which is, I believe it's 2 of 9, sheet 2 of 9. There we go. Is there a way that we can zoom into right where the darkest hatch pattern is? Yeah, there you go. All right. So if you notice just before it regenerated itself, you'll notice that the 2 boxes that are dashed there are the existing carport to be demoed. The interior dashed box is the actual carport itself, and then the other dashed box around the perimeter of it is the roof overhang. It's quite prominent in the front, and you can see that angle. So the new garage is the darkest hatch pattern there, and then you've got the ADU slightly lighter hatch pattern above it, and you can see that it cantilevers over the garage doors slightly and the rest of the home about 3.5 feet. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of break up that large face on the west side of the home. So it's not just a large monolith face by cantilevering it. And it also pushed the ADU away from the back open yard area so that it allows for the back open yard to be, not so dark back there from shade. And it also allows us to have that staircase leading up and then going across and onto that new deck. Now, the reason why the ADU is located where it's located on the site plan is because we had to conform to our solar access zone off the north property line. And so therefore, we actually pushed both the proposed garage and the ADU further away from the setback lines and the property lines on the north side. Now, there's one thing I want to point out. We have since revised our basement design, and you can see that crosshatch pattern represents the basement below grade. It's not nearly as large as you see it on these sets of drawings. It's actually the same size as the proposed garage, and there's no exterior staircase that leads around the north side there. That's all gone. The staircase for the new design that we have is directly underneath the staircase that leads up to the deck. So it's much cleaner. There's not a whole lot of activity going on in that open yard area like you see it here. So disregard that staircase around the perimeter of the back there. And if we can go back to perhaps 9 of 9, the last sheet. We tried to give you some views of existing and proposed to see if maybe, you could get a feel of how this ADU would be shown back on these views. If you look in the upper right corner, you can pretty much see that the existing roof has quite the angle on it, quite the slope. And the new deck to the right of it would be flat, obviously. And it works out very nice for having a deck up there. The 2 views below it, upper right corner as well, just the 2 views below, kind of gives you an idea, a feel for how the ADU would be sitting on top of that back portion of the house there. And let's see what else here. What else do we have? We have examples of what the finish of the proposed would be like to match the existing residence. We have what's called a mission white stucco color that we would match. The garage doors would be as shown there, the sample garage door look. Let's see, stone that would lead up the exterior staircase would match the stone that's in the front of the house. I think if you go, oh, you can see it in the lower right corner, second from the bottom. You can see what the front staircase and the iron rail would look like. We want to match as much as possible there. An important set of views is in the lower left corner of the sheet. The immediate neighbor behind our project, you know, we tried our best to not disturb anybody's views or to encroach on anybody's personal space by any means. And that's the view that you see from her house as you look down the drive. And personally, we don't think that this ADU is going to disrupt that neighbor's view, because there's not much of it. I mean, you can see that there's those tall shrubs right there that kind of block her property from our project's property. And you can kind of see a little bit of the carport, existing carport there. But that was important to us. We didn't want to disturb anybody's view. And quite frankly, I believe that the majority of the neighbors, immediate neighbors, have expressed their approval for this project in one way or another. If we go up one sheet, 8 of 9. Here we have more views that will kind of give you what's an existing and a proposed idea. The second set of photos from the upper right, you'll see the carport garage door. The carport is got 3 sides that are kind of open that make it a carport, but it kind of looks like a garage from this view. But the new garage would basically be going in the same location, simply because of the grade, and we didn't want to have to do any major regrading for the garage. And then there's a few other views here that kind of give you an idea of how this would feel if we had the ADU on top of the existing residence. I think that's pretty much everything that I can explain to you from the exterior standpoint. Be happy to take questions from you now.
Hold on, Mr. Mansfield. We've got public comment coming up.
Sure.
Ms. Burkhart, do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon located at the bottom of your screen. While we wait for hands, Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence for this item?
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item. I do see one hand raised in the attendees list. Now I see 2. David Fainer, I am going to ask you to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Are you able to, what else?
I can hear you.
You can hear me, okay.
Yes.
I represent Tatiana Nazarenko. Ms. Nazarenko is the next door neighbor right behind the Hansons' home. She has no objection to the Hansons having an ADU, but has not really seen these plans before. Her understanding of the way the property lines up is different than what has been discussed today by Mr. Mansfield. In particular, the existing carport is, to her understanding, on the boundary line with no backyard or side yard setback. So replacing that, putting a 2-story structure there is a problem. Now, it appears that the plan is to slide that 2nd-story ADU towards the public street, and that's a very good idea. if the ADU can be downsized or slid further towards the street, it has much less impact on her. Ms. Nazarenko is concerned that the two-story element will block sunlight much of the afternoon on her home. In addition to the ordinary desire that she has for sunlight on, or that everyone has for sunlight on their property, she also has a medical need for sunlight due to certain vision and health problems. And she's available to raise her hand and describe those if that really matters. But the proposal that she would make is that this be put back out for further study with another concept review to follow, the idea being to create as much setback as possible to have the ADU located in a different location. This is a 13,000 square foot lot. It's certainly possible to site an ADU in a location that has less impact on the neighbor. The proposals for study would be either an ADU, one story in the front yard, one on top of the main house, but closer to Santa Rosa Avenue, or one where the current gazebo is, which would be one story, and that's in the backyard and possible to see from the photo on the plans. So
Sorry,
thank you
Ralph.
very much for the opportunity to comment.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more hand raised by Tatiana Nazarenko. And I will ask you to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Hello, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. The existing carport already blocks daylight to my living room and kitchen room. And these two rooms are pretty dark. If we add a accessory dwelling above the garage, I will not be able to use this room without electrical light all the time. So in addition, I will have no privacy in my front yard where I have my dining table and where we kind of do some activities, because the ADU will be like hovering over it. So I have a condition. I cannot use electrical light all the time. If necessary, I'll bring the letter from my ophthalmologist. And I don't want to live in the dark house. And even now, with existing carpool, which is probably 8 feet as tall as my hedge. It's the same because I keep the hedge as tall as a carpool. I do not have enough. I don't have a natural light. Adding anything above will severely deteriorate the condition of my living and the condition in my house, and it will be a health hazard for me. So I would ask the board to encourage the Hansons to come up with another solution. They have a big property and there are at least 3 places they can place this ADU instead of adding it as the second level to their garage. Thank you very much for your understanding.
Thank you. And at this time, I do not see any more hands raised, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. I'm just curious, Mr. Mansfield, did you want an opportunity to respond to that?
First thing that came to my mind was that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So I'm not quite convinced that sun being blocked from the ADU, especially where it's located, would cause any sort of I don't think it would cause any sort of an issue with what's already going on next door as far as lighting, natural lighting goes. I would think that perhaps if it's if it's that big of an issue, that maybe we do a study on that just to see what what it would actually be. But as far as relocating the ADU in another location on the property, it's a bit tricky as well, because you can't, obviously we don't want to try to put an ADU in the front yard. I just think that the design that we have right now is the best approach to doing this. We also have to keep in mind that it's, the house was built in 1920, so the existing walls are, not your typical construction walls. In fact, I think the majority of them are concrete walls. So I mean, logistically, it'd be real tough to try to relocate this ADU other than where we've located it. The site plan, as far as the north property line goes.
Can we bring up the site plan while he's speaking?
Yeah, can we do that? Sheet 2 of 9, please. So if you can zoom into that north area again. Now this is the city records as far as the actual lot and the site here goes. This is what's on record with the city. I think the reason why perhaps the neighbor thinks that the carport is right up against the property line is because there's the shrubs that are located on the north side of the property line. They're actually inside the property line as opposed to the outside of the property line. So they're actually on the Hanson's property. So that might make you think that, the carport's closer to the property line than it actually is.
All right, well, let's move on. I'm sure the board will have more questions about this, but yeah, I just wanted to get a quick response to her concern. So anyway, I'll bring it back to the board for Mr. Brentlinger. Do you have any questions, please?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mansfield, I wanted to ask you about the, I guess the access and the facing of the ADU unit as it appears from the east. And I don't recall which slide it is that shows us the elevation from the east.
Yeah, if you go to sheet 5 of 9, A204.
Okay, great. Yeah, here we go.
You zoom into the proposed east elevation, which is the second from the bottom on the
right
side. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was interested in. I was, if I recall the site plan, there's a residence due east of that elevation. Is that correct?
There is indeed, yeah.
So is there also much of a sight line from that residence?
No, if there's tall trees and there's also bamboo on that side, so you don't see their residence and they don't see ours unless you kind of had to go, you'd have to go out of your way to kind of look through the bamboo. If I recall, I'm just trying to remember offhand, there are some photos that I have in this set of plans that could give you an explanation. It's quite lush back there around the perimeter of the property. So there is privacy.
Okay. Yeah, I was, I guess, concerned with the aesthetic of that. It just, well, I don't know quite how to describe it. It was, this is the only access to the ADU, correct?
No, there's 2 accesses. If you look at the proposed west elevation on the very top right, there's an existing, if you look on the left existing west elevation, you'll see that pop out there. That was an addition added to the home. I'm not sure exactly when. It's got a shed roof to it and so on. That is an existing laundry room / mud room today.
Okay.
And what we're proposing to do is is continue with that. But as you can see on the proposed west elevation, we've added a staircase that leads up on the inside.
I see.
We can show you that to you on the floor plans as well. So that would be used for your, you know, if you're going to rent this unit out to somebody that you didn't really know or didn't, you know, weren't family with, you probably use that as your main entry. On the other side, on the east elevation, that's appropriate if you had, you know, perhaps family members that would be up there.
Okay, okay. That's helpful. That's helpful.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I was having a little trouble following the kind of pedestrian pathway in and out of the view. But that's very helpful. Thank you. Okay, then I think I did want to ask you about that light study, given the comments from Mrs. Nezarenko, probably a question about whether you could do a light study to just to examine her concern.
Sure.
Okay.
Now in the past, you know, we've put up story poles and then just put a sheet or tarp up at the high level there and just kind of tested it to see what it would actually do. So, you know, there's ways of figuring it out. Sure.
Okay, that's great. And the windows and that you're proposing in the ADU, are they of a similar manufacturer then, or given
yes,
that old structure?
Yes, we want to match the existing windows as possible, and the existing windows in the existing house, they're relatively new. They've been replaced, so we're going to match those with the ADU. Again, the whole goal is to try to make it look like it was all built at the same time.
Okay, good. That's great. I appreciate that.
Sure.
And the only other question is about the landscaping. On the renderings, there's a considerable amount of palm trees. Are those meant to represent existing palm trees?
Existing. Yeah, all existing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Whether I have them in the exact location, you know, I did my best with trying to match them. But you know, there's a lot of palms. There's a lot of tall trees on this property. There's a lot of things that can pretty much hide the ADU, in my opinion.
Okay.
And you can, if you want to go back to look at some of the photos on the last 3 sheets of the set, you can see a lot of those trees.
That's okay. I had a good look at them, and I'm used to seeing so many renderings of lavish landscaping that make any architecture look good. I was just wondering, you know. So thank you for your answers.
Of course.
That's all for me.
All right, thank you very much. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, just to follow up on the question that was just asked about the palms. Are you removing any or adding any new trees?
No and no. Well, hopefully not. Well, you know, once we demo the carport out of there, we have to see what's remaining. We may have to, you know, clean things up, and you know, who knows. But no, we're not proposing any new landscaping or taking out any existing landscaping. But again, we're not opposed to making things look pretty.
Right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of palms. There's definitely a lot of palms already. The only other question is I don't know if you're there yet, is with the stormwater, if there's any permeability that you're adding to the site.
No, we're not. And we're assuming, hopefully we're hoping that the existing stormwater directions that are with the house now will stay the same. We think so, but we'll certainly address that if we need to.
Okay, those are my only questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, you have, looks like you have an access on the north side of the ADU. What is that? There's a deck up there. because the ADU sets back, looks like about 7 or 8 feet from the rear wall of the garage.
Correct.
Is that an entry to the ADU on the second floor on the north elevation?
Well, those are 2 bedrooms on the back side there that you're looking at on the north side. There's 2 bedrooms there. In 1 bedroom, we have sliding glass doors that would lead out to a back deck area there.
That's a deck. That is a deck up there on the north.
Correct. Yes, correct. And the reason why it became that way is if you look at a 204, I think we're looking at that. Yeah, we are. Okay. And if you go up to the proposed west elevation, with our solar access zone, you see why we had to have that. I believe it's 7 feet up there, or 6 feet. So we just figured, well, we'll just make it a deck area and we'll have sliding doors leading out from 1 bedroom onto that back deck area. And then if you look at if you can zoom out just a tad bit, and if you look at the east elevation, second from the bottom, you'll see another set of sliding glass doors that lead out of the other bedroom.
Those bedrooms are at opposite ends of the proposed ADU.
They're both on the north side of the ADU. Yes, they're side by side. If we go to the floor plan, you can see how that's configured, which I believe is 3 of 9.
I see the other doors are 90-degree angle on the east side of
let's
that.
go to 4 of 9. Yeah, there we are.
Oh, I
so
see.
if you want to, yeah, so you've got a set of sliding doors leading out of the lower bedroom, and then the other sliding doors leading out of the bedroom above it.
We go back to the elevations there. I see. Yes, I see now. Okay.
Yeah.
You have a deck wrapped around that whole, the 2 sides, basically a deck wrapped around an entry.
Correct.
Sides, the north and the east sides of the ADU.
Correct.
And I see your solar access, or your solar, what do we call it? Solar.
You're right.
Line.
Solar access zone.
Yeah.
Is that? I can see where it tips the top of the second floor of the roof line right there.
Correct.
Is that the height? I haven't done it in so long, I've forgotten. What's the height at the base at the property line?
Well, how you calculate that is you go up 12 feet from your property line, your existing property line, then you have to come back 30 degrees.
Right.
You can't protrude into that solar access zone.
Correct. I have some things to say about that, but I think there are more comments. I'll wait till my comment period and then speak up again. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you.
Yes, that's my, that's okay. I'm finished with my question. Thank you. I'm gonna make sure.
All right, thank you. Are you done, Mr. Motisha?
I am done.
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple questions. What is the existing plate height of the home, and what is the proposed plate height for the second story?
9 foot and 9 foot. 9 feet and 9 feet. So it's from finished floor to ceiling is 9 feet existing, and then you've got your roughly your foot of
construction. Yeah.
Construction, and then it rises another 9 feet for the ADU to the ceiling height. Now, that may have to drop to 8'6", but our structural engineer is trying to work some magic for us up there.
Okay, yeah. The other, I'm a little confused about, it looks like you have an outdoor fireplace on the deck upstairs.
Correct. And that fireplace we're adding an outdoor fireplace that rises up from the existing fireplace in the house.
So I don't see the chimney to it somewhere on the second story.
See how look on the existing south elevation.
Okay.
And you'll see that monolith up there right in the middle of the.
Yes.
That is the chimney of the fireplace below inside the living room.
So,
and we're going to die into that with a new fireplace And, we'll probably go with a fireplace that's gas, and you're not going to.
But won't that have a chimney that sticks up higher?
It depends. I mean, it depends on what we haven't really finalized exactly how that's going to look, because we haven't gotten that far with. But it shouldn't be much higher than what I'm showing already.
Wouldn't the existing, if you're going to retain the fireplace, wouldn't the existing chimney be extended above the ADU, even if you did not put a fireplace on the deck, second story deck or second roof deck? It's up there because there's nothing above that on the existing. But as soon as you put a ADU up there, you have to extend that fire chimney up.
Well, if we chose to just go with a gas fireplace without burning any sort of wood, we wouldn't need to.
Okay, then we need
to.
Brian, sorry to interrupt.
No, you took the words right out of my mouth.
It's a valid question. It's a very valid question.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. I think if you put you've drawn it as an outdoor fireplace, which would denote a chimney. Yet you're saying you haven't decided yet, and you're saying if it's gas, now you could have a fire pit. I can see that, and that doesn't have a chimney. But Joe brings up an issue that there's the code requirement that if you're within 10 feet, it has to be the chimney top has to be 2 feet higher than the peak of the roof.
Right.
And so I guess we really need to see some clarification on that. So anyway,
let's go back to, I believe it's 4 of 9. It shows the upper floor plan. Let's see if we can, there we go.
Yeah.
So if you could zoom into perhaps that deck area.
So that's an outdoor fireplace.
Yeah.
Let me see.
But if we went with a gas fireplace without wood, without burning anything.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe have I don't know, lava rocks or some sort of thing like that. I mean, we could work it out to where we wouldn't have to extend a massive chimney.
May I interrupt, Brian? I have another question.
Well, okay, yeah, go ahead.
What is the distance between the corner of the ADU, the southeast corner of the ADU, southeast corner, sorry, it is the northeast corner. God, I'm getting this all confused. I'm trying to
zoom out just a tad bit and you'll be able to see that north arrow down there. Might help you get your bearings. There you go.
North arrow. Okay. North arrow is almost, where is the north arrow?
Down below.
You're referring to the southeast corner, Joe.
Okay. Southeast corner of the ADU, proposed ADU. How far is it right now from that corner to the corner of the fireplace, of the existing fireplace?
Oh, well, I can't give you that exact dimension offhand, but I'm looking at it right now. We're looking at about perhaps 8 feet.
Correct. I was waiting for you to say anything under 10 feet. If it's anything under 10 feet and you're going to retain that fireplace below, then it has to be 2 feet above 10 feet. And if you're going to change the fireplace below to a gas, well, you're still, I mean, if it's only a gas, you can't burn anything into it.
Right.
You might get away with that, but you have to indicate it. And I don't think it's been indicated on the floor plan of your existing.
Well, not yet.
Okay,
not yet, but we will.
Okay.
We can't make a decision on something that's not yet.
No, I understand.
Okay.
That's why I'm glad you bring this stuff up, because it's things that, I mean, we can't catch everything off the, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we can make conditions for both fireplaces to be gas without, without any sort of material burning in there. Like I said, we could go with lava rocks or some sort of there's other options we could probably go with.
Okay, I think we're going to move on, Mr. Motisha.
Yes.
All right. with that being said, and I've had my questions answered, I'm going to bring it back to the board again for comments. Mr. Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
No, I don't. I think it was a good conversation, and I'm done.
Okay. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions or comments, please?
No comments.
Okay. Mr. Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I have a comment about the solar energy.
Solar access. Solar access.
Solar access, sorry. I think the lady behind you has some valid questions. I don't know if we need, if it's on our preview or our I forget the word for it. Anyway, in our
purview
to address that, but I think you could probably satisfy her a little bit more by convincing her that the sun is the highest in the south, and if her house is directly behind you, behind this proposed ADU, that she will get sunlight, but you need to show it on these drawings to allow her to see, because at early in the morning in the east direction and late in the afternoon in the west direction, the sun's going to be lower, but it's not behind the ADU. So she's going to have plenty of light at those two times also, which I don't think she is. Lots of people don't understand the solar
access
ordinance.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of people don't understand that. So if you don't show it, and I've been in that situation before being an architect, I had to convince somebody that they had plenty of sunlight and we're not in shadowed. So that's said. That's enough of that. Stairway, not light, stairway. Yeah, and if that doesn't work, sorry, like is not the word. I can't put like in there. I think the design follows our guidelines. I like the size, bulk, and scale, and where you put the ADU is probably, in my opinion, the size, bulk, and scale and neighborhood compatibility is probably the best place. But you could, if you needed to, move that ADU towards the street a few feet, if it could be done. And also one other thing, comment, I think the ceiling height or the plate height of the ADU does not need to be 9 feet tall. That could be down to 8 feet and nobody would know the difference. And if the existing house is already 9 foot, that's okay. But adding an ADU and making it 9 foot is kind of, in our guidelines, stretching the plate limits. Thank you. I'm finished.
All right, thank you, Mr. Motisha. Kind of following up on what Mr. Board Member Motisha said. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe if you lowered the plate height 8'6" or 8 feet on the upper level, that would help. I'm also looking forward to seeing how you're going to figure out that fireplace because not only is it an aesthetic issue, it's a code issue. So, you've got a chimney thing going on that needs to be figured out. And it's hard to make a good design determination regarding that elevation without really seeing that chimney and how that's going to affect the elevation. So that's kind of going to be an important thing to look at in terms of the overall. The style of it, I think you've done a very good job of designing the new addition that's sympathetic to the existing condition. I think you succeeded in making it look like it was part of the house all the time as opposed to an awkward addition. I think the way you've located the deck is very well done in terms of it being set inside the structure, and it's well within our guidelines of being 15 feet away from the property line. So I think that was really well executed. And yeah, the whole shading and shadow thing, if you go to the elevations, please, I want to show something here that kind of follow up what Mr. Motisha was bringing up. Yeah, if you go to the top proposed west elevation and kind of go to the left side there, you'll see there that dashed line. And what that represents is the shadow being cast by the sun at its lowest place on the winter equinox, I believe.
Correct.
So the shadow is never set lower than that. So that's what that means. So I'm not sure what the woman who spoke was referring to, but it sounds like she said the existing carport. Can we look at the existing west elevation, please? Okay, so
I was trying to follow that as well because it didn't make much sense. I mean, what's the point of having a solar access zone if it's not going to do what it's meant to do?
Yeah, yeah, good point. So I'm not sure how you can address that. I agree that I think where you've located the ADU really fits well. It doesn't overpower the existing home, and you've matched the style of it, I think, very well. So those are my only comments at this time. So that being said, they're here for comments only. Would someone like? Yeah,
go ahead. I have a couple of comments.
Sure, go ahead.
Center deck, yes, it is in the center of the house and it is more than 15 feet, but we have a deck on the back of the ADU, a proposed deck.
Okay.
I'm supposed to comment about the ADU, but we have a deck there that is not ADU. It is a deck on top of a garage, and that deck is indeed closer than 15 feet from the property line.
Can we see the floor plan, please?
And Chair Miller, just to clarify, the ADU on this project is within the purview of this board.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So where's that deck, Joe?
That deck is the
I see it.
west bedroom.
Go to the upper floor. This is 4 of 9. There you go.
Okay. The deck right there is that deck on the left-hand side on the, sorry.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't see that. So
ADU has a deck out there, and that deck is, I can't read it, but I think it says 6. It's too small. I can't read the width of that deck, but that deck,
it's 6 feet.
Yeah, that deck is closer than 15 feet to the property line, which is basically against our ordinance, or not against our
against the recommended guidelines.
Chair Miller and to the rest of the board, if I could interrupt, this project is the application for this project is currently incomplete, so they're still working out comments from zoning and other divisions and departments within the city. The newer ADU ordinance guidelines, design guidelines section advises that the applicant provide a screening for a deck that is closer than 15 feet to an adjacent neighbor. So the applicant has the option of providing that.
Okay.
If they want the deck.
Correct. As we show, and I was just getting ready to point that out on the elevations, we do show that screening. As a matter of fact, on the floor plan here, you can see the double line on the back side of the around the perimeter of the back deck there. See the double line on the that signifies a screen. Now, if you go to 5 of 9, the elevations, and you can zoom into the upper right proposed elevation, the west elevation, and you'd see that dashed line that signifies the screen.
Weird. I don't see. Oh, I
see on the left-hand side where the solar access zone is. You see the 3'6".
That 12 foot is a screen. It's not a dimension.
No. If you look at the 3'6" dimension there on the upper deck, just above the garage doors.
Yes.
See that?
Yes.
And see the dash line. Maybe you might want to zoom in there just a little bit further if you can.
So I would
see the dash line there. That signifies that there would be a screen of some sort. We haven't finalized what that would be if we needed to have it. It sounds like we do.
It's below the solar access line.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. I mean,
well, so to Mr. Motisha, to follow up what you said, and I appreciate you bringing it up. on an aesthetic point of view and in terms of balance of the architecture, I can support this deck because it works in this particular case. So
I agree with you. It does.
So
instead of just having a roof there, it adds something to the size, bulk,
yeah,
and scale.
it balances the garage below. So with that being said, would someone please like to entertain a motion with comments only?
I'll make a motion.
All right, please.
I would like to give this project.
They're just comments only. We don't give it anything.
Comments only. Okay. I would like to see ceilings of the ADU brought down to either 8.6 or 8 feet. Solar access explained a little bit more openly and on the drawings to aid neighbors. Chimney height and location shown, and type of fireplaces being used to support that chimney. And I will remove my deck idea, and that's my motion. And for it to come back to the board for concept again.
Or to the full board?
No. Well, yes, to the full board.
I'd like the full. Okay.
Full board. Yes.
May I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll begin the roll call vote. Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right. See you again. All right. Let's
Okay.
move on to item number 3. Uh-oh. Let's see. Item number 3, 5 o'clock. Hey, we're right on time. Darn, we're good. Okay. 20 El Prado Place. This is a continued item. Project design approval is requested. It's a proposal for a 35 square foot addition to the first floor and a new 620 square foot second floor of an existing 1,610 square foot single unit residence. The proposed total of 2,648 square feet of development on a 9,418 square foot lot is 75% of the maximum guideline for the lot area ratio. Project design approval is requested. Neighborhood preservation findings are required. The project was last reviewed on November 8, 2021. Board Member Klein, could you please read the minutes into the record, please? If you,
Sure.
You can be so kind.
The comments were: 1, the applicant shall consider changing the location and design of the fenestrations on the second floor for a more balanced look. 2, the applicant shall consider adding shutters to the fenestration or change the fenestration to a different design on the south elevation. 3, the applicant shall extend the balcony for a more balanced look. 4, the applicant shall consider changing the gable roof to hipped.
Okay, action taken by Motisha, second by Ziegler, 5-1-0, Colossus opposed, motion carried. Do we have a representative for the project?
We do. Chair Miller, Mr. Esparza is here to present the project. However, before we get started, just for the record, I would like to confirm with Board Member Brentlinger that he did review the plans, minutes, and video of the previous meeting.
Yes, I can confirm all 3 of those.
Good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Esparza, the best way to ease confusion is if you can just directly address what was written in the minutes. Since we.
Let's see, I'm working on promoting him to a panelist. I thought I had already done that, sorry. Okay, Mr. Esparza, I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Great.
Good afternoon, board members.
Hello, Mr. Esparza. Welcome.
I will just respond to the items. Item 1, the fenestrations were changed on the second floor for a more balanced look. I replaced the one big window facing El Prado
Well, let's see the elevations. Can you refer to which sheet you've addressed that?
Okay, well, you can see it on the rendering there
Okay.
on the cover sheet. You can see it on C1, which is the next sheet, too. If you look on the lower left rendering, it's shown there with two larger windows and the stair window. And then on sheet 4, which I believe is 6 of the set. And the proposed south elevation. So now we have two 4-foot windows. And then I also moved the stair window at the top of the stairs to the front. And that'll be addressed on one of the other comments. I also placed shutters on both sides, on each side of those new windows, sort of to create that horizontal look that I think helps that second floor. The balcony was wrapped around on the proposed west elevation. It would stop at the middle. Now it continues all the way back. And then also changed the roof to a hip roof, and it does work much better both in the front and in the back. It I believe helps to bring the mass down of the second floor and creates a little bit more interest in the architecture. I also show on the roof plan, which is the next page, you know, where how the roof is being changed to a hip roof. And I think that covers all of the items that were asked.
All right, thank you. Ms. Burkhart, did we get any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon located at the bottom of your screen. While we wait for hands, Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence for this item?
Thank you. We did receive one public comment letter from Catherine A. Runkle and David B. Benjamin. That was distributed to the board prior to this meeting. And at this time, I do not see any hands raised, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. So I'll go down the list. Board member Brentlinger, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Esparza, I'm looking at the list, and you clearly went through the list, so I commend you for that. I would like to take a look then again at that page 4 elevations where most of the changes show up, because I want to focus on the shutters that were installed. Thank you. On the upper left, the south elevation, I think the recommendation was for breaking up that single window into either 2 or putting in shutters. You've done both of those here, but I see the shutters as being, well, they're definitely faux shutters, I'd call them, meaning that they clearly wouldn't serve the purpose of an original shutter, being only half of one. So I would suggest, and I don't know if this is where, if this is the appropriate place for this, but wonder if you had considered in place of shutters some other sort of window with more pronounced trim or framing around the window, or whether you think the shutters are really appropriate as portrayed.
I realize that they're not being portrayed as functional shutters. One of the things that I do like about the idea of having shutters is it gives an opportunity to bring a little bit more color, and that helps to break up the front elevation. But I didn't consider any other treatments. We could possibly do a plaster windowsill and trim around it, around those windows, but none of the other windows have that. And even though the shut, their windows have the shutters, they would be unique to the front elevation, and that's why I like the idea of the shutters.
Well, thank you for the answer. I agree with you that that no other windows have shutters either. So we're looking at these as pretty unique. So I'll save the rest of my comments for comments periods, but thanks for looking at that. And then that was my main. Oh, I actually do have another question. There's a window that came out while you were putting in windows. One of them disappeared on the east elevation that I think was intended to give light to the top of the interior stairwell. Just wondered why you took that one out.
Well, I moved it to the front elevation, to the south elevation, so that as you come up the stairs, you still have that light into the stairs. But
okay.
now you can't look at the neighbors.
Okay.
And one more comment: the window in the master closet, on the window schedule, I've called it out as obscure glass, so there won't be any visual to the neighbors as well.
Okay, I thank you for that. No further questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, David, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was going to comment about those shutters, or a question about those shutters. I have a view about them that I'll wait till my comments to make that view. You may end up making the view, your views that take the words out of my mouth again. Jose, you eliminated the window on the east elevation. I think what it did is made that elevation just one solid block. And I think you could put a window in there anywhere and it would improve that elevation.
Joe, we're stick to questions. You can
sorry,
eloquent comments when we come to comments.
I'm sorry, I drifted. Comments, let me see.
Any more questions?
No, wait a minute. I'm not through. I've got to look at each. And okay, no, I have several more comments. I'll wait till that period comes up. Thank you, David. I'm finished.
Okay,
Brian.
I have no questions at this time, so I'm going to bring it back to the board for comments. Mr. Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My comment going back to the shutters is that I would suggest looking at some other window treatment for those two windows that you've installed to give them some architectural detail other than the shutters. I certainly leave it up to you as to what works the best, but that would be my comment. And then I would also launch that other comment about the wall expanse on the east elevation with the removal of that one window for good reason, I would say, but it does leave quite an expansive blank wall there. So some other sort of architectural detail to break up that expanse would be my recommendation. And those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Just that I agree with Board Member Brentlinger about the shutters. If there's another way to go about that, I would support it.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I think the shutters, sorry, I think our guidelines would make the, I got to figure out how Luis has commented about these shutters. I think the windows I think the shutters should be removed and nothing done to those windows. Those windows match all the other windows in the house and they don't need to be accented. I think the accented could be acquired on that elevation with a row of windows across your garage door to accent the garage door more and give it some highlights, and you don't need to do anything to the windows above it. Let me see, we look at other than that, I love what you've done to the roof. You put a hip roof on that. That's really makes this house tie together and look as one, like has always been, just like that. That one window in the blank wall east elevation could again highlight and illuminate the stairway, and it can be anywhere up there at the same. It could be anywhere. It would improve that elevation, that big blank wall that somebody has to look at. That's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Jose, I forgot to ask you, what is the plate height of the second story?
It's 8 feet.
8 feet? Okay.
Yes, if you look on to the left of the west elevation, it's
8 feet.
Call that out. Yeah, I try to call it out on all of the elevations. So.
Okay, yeah, I just can't. It's so small, I can't see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just follow up. Yeah, nix the shutters. The shutters don't work. It looks kind of contrived. Also, don't put the window. Put the window back on the other side. I don't think it's going to cause too much of a privacy issue. The way you have it now, can we go back to the zoom out again, please? Yeah, on the south elevation, the proposed south, you crowded that window in there. It's very awkward. So I would take that window out and put it back on the east elevation.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and just leave those windows alone and you'll be fine. Just, it is what it is. I mean, the style of the home is cutting edge 50s tract home. And so you're just following in that same vein. So no shutters. I think the hip roof does help quite a bit. So those are my only comments at this time. So would someone like to entertain a motion, please?
I will.
Who's that?
Katie.
Yes, please. Great.
I'd like to make a motion for project design approval to return for final on consent with the following comments and findings: that the applicant shall study the east elevation blank wall, remove the shutters at the south elevation, and the south elevation also remove the small window and put on the east elevation, and that the project is consistent in appearance with the neighborhood, is compatible in size, bulk, and scale. Quality architectural materials are being used to match what's existing there. No trees are being removed.
No.
The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected. The good neighbor guidelines are followed and no public views are impacted.
Great. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll start the roll call vote. Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
All right. See you later. Okay, we're on item number 4. Scheduled for 5:30. Okay, we're well within the time. Do you guys need a 5-minute break?
No.
I'm good, but I'll follow whatever needs to be done here.
Chair Miller, if we could keep moving, I would appreciate that. Ms. Klein has to leave at 6:30 and I would like to
Okay,
get.
all right, we're gonna move on.
Okay.
I'll ignore my bladder. Okay, we're on item number 4, 1135 Harbor Hills Lane, continued item. requesting project design approval, proposal for a 1,094 square foot addition to an existing 2,444 square foot, two-story single unit residence. The proposal includes removal of all existing wood siding to replace with stucco and replacement of all windows and doors, exterior deck additions with new railings, and the replacement of existing roof tile with metal roofing are also proposed. The total 3,571 square foot of development on a 15,422 square foot lot is 82% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Project design approval is requested. Neighborhood preservation findings and hillside design district and slope lot findings are required. The project was last reviewed on December 6th, 2021. Board Member Klein, if you could read the minutes into the record, that'd be great.
Sure. All right.
Can you enlarge that? My eyeballs are straining trying to. Just the minutes, the motion. Perfect.
The motion was to continue indefinitely to full board with the following comments. 1, the board anticipates giving PDA when the project returns if the applicant has a complete and ready application. 2, the board generally finds the approach to the project acceptable. 3, the color scheme provided will help to integrate the home more readily into the hillside because of the neutrality of the color palette. The board would like the applicant to consider any cost-effective means by which they might help break down the visual bulk and existing residents. Suggestions include landscaping, of materials, color, could perhaps be a subtle color difference than the body of the building. 5, the applicant shall provide a landscape plan that addresses drainage issues as well as how the skirt of the lower deck could be addressed in order to soften the base of the residence and help the home become more visually anchored into the hillside. 6, the board is supportive of the standing metal seam roof in the proposed color. 7, the applicant shall provide a lighting plan with any exterior lighting included. The motion was made by Kalas, seconded by Klein.
All right, thank you. Do we have a representative for the project, please?
Yes, Chair Miller, we have Ms. Best, also trying to admit Mr. Aurel.
Okay. And like I've said before, if you can just address what's the minutes exactly so that minimizes confusion and time, that'd be great.
Let's see, Ms. Best, did you want to go ahead and start the presentation? Or, Mr. Aurel is declining to be promoted as a panelist, so I'm assuming maybe you'll be doing the presentation.
He's going to watch in the background.
I'm not sure if he's meaning to decline them or not. Ms. Best, I can't hear you. You are unmuted. You might need to change your audio output. There, I think I can hear you. Oh, nope, I can't. Let's see. It might be your headphones. I'm not sure.
This is Ellen Kokinda. So what I recommend, if you go down to your mute icon in the bottom left, there's a little arrow. And if you click on that, you can select a different microphone. You might be able to select a different system if there's multiple setups. So just go to your microphone icon where it says mute or unmute, and then click on that little arrow notch next to it and see if you can select a different output for your microphone. Alternatively, we might be able to do a quick recess and then you can call in. That's another option.
Maybe we should do that. We could take a 5-minute recess and Chair Miller might like that. Is that okay with you, Chair Miller?
How long of a recess do you need? 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, I'd like to call recess and to return at 5:30.
All right, thank you.
I have to leave at 6 o'clock also. Or 6 o'clock. And I was
Okay.
hoping-
We'll
I
do
didn't
this
men-
quick.
I didn't
Yeah, if we
mention-
lose any
we would-
member, we lose our quorum.
I know, I
I'm
know.
open to anything here, what you want to do that works best.
Let's get this guy on the microphone. See
Okay.
how long it
Yeah,
takes
just a
us.
microphone's fine. I
Okay.
mean, I
We'll be
think-
back at 5:30 and we'll make it quick. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Be back at 5:30.
Gotcha.
In front of you on 1135 Harbor Hills Lane. And we were back here before. I don't know, did you read the minutes already, Mr. Chair? I can't seem to pull them up.
Yes, if you want us to put it on the screen to make it easier for you.
That'd be fantastic because I can't find them here, so.
Okay.
All right, great. So we were back here. Thank you very much. We were before you back in December after 6 to 7 months of trying to get in front of you for the project. And we had a meeting with you all and pretty positive comments overall on the project. And we'll go through these here, and I'm going to screenshot this since I can't find my copy. And if you want to go back to the plans, Mr. Chair, we'll go ahead and go through these. We'd like to come back here for preliminary and final if possible, or maybe come back on consent for final if need be. We don't have a lot to really go through on the board. So if we can go to the next page, please. So we spent a lot of time on this photo in the top middle of the last hearing. We've done some photo recon just to see if you can even see this house. This is obviously shot from a drone. So if you can float 100 feet in the air, you get that vantage point. But otherwise, when you get down on the ground, it's very different, the home. So we have a diagram for that. We'll go to the next page, please.
Sorry, Clay, what item are you addressing in terms of what you're talking
I'm
about?
not. I'm getting there.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
I know we're really pressed for time, so if you could be as eloquent and clear as quickly, that would be great. And mostly address your comments to the specific items on the minutes.
Okay, so item number 3 is the color scheme, which says the color scheme provided will help integrate the home more readily into the hillside. So that was positive. The board would like the applicant to consider cost-effective means by which they might help to break down the visual bulk and mass of the existing structure. So we spent a lot of time looking at that image I pointed at a second ago, and then there are suggestions including landscaping and change of materials, guardrails, etc. So that item number 4 is going to be on, if we can go to the next page, please. Next. Next page. So we've provided a landscaping plan, and you can see that we've got some pretty mature trees down towards the bottom on the right-hand side, and we're proposing a tree kind of near the corner there to help break down the mass. If you zoom into the 2 diagrams on the left, diagrams 3 and 4, this is really one of the few spots where you could get a sense of the building from Cliff Drive. And I'm on my laptop, so this is very small on my side, but you have item 3, which is a view looking up La Marina from Cliff Drive, and you can see the house there up in the background. And just want to make sure you can see it. because I'm having a hard time on my end. And then view 4 shows the proposed residence color palette as the darker gray color palette that we showed you last time, and some vegetation in the foreground to help just kind of break down that mass. There isn't a lot of, because of the terrain on La Marina and the housings, the homes in the foreground and stuff, it's pretty hard to get a visual shot of this from many places, but this was the one that we could really see the building and the mass of it. So we've planted some trees on the south west corner of the property and up against the building to help kind of just break that mass down. That's addressing comment number 4.
Could I interrupt for a second? This is Joe Matisha. Could you point out, or Barbara have somebody point out with a cursor where the house is? I see 2 tall white structures on the top elevation or top picture, but I don't see one of them. I'm not too sure which one is your house.
Yeah, you may have to zoom in a little bit. I can't point to it with the cursor, but there you go.
That's why I'm asking Barbara. Okay, there it is. Show that line. Okay, so it's in between, it's to the lower left of that
Right.
line right there. Okay.
So if you go down to the next image, image 4, just below this, you'll see where we've added some foliage and changed the color of the building.
Got it. Okay, no, thank you. Go ahead, continue.
Okay.
Continue. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 5, the applicant shall provide a landscape plan addresses drainage issues as well as how to skirt the lower deck. So we're sitting here looking at the landscape plan. I will point out that the southern property line that's running diagonally left to right or right to left, there's an existing concrete drainage swale there that was put in at some point by the city, we believe, and it connects down to it picks up drainage from all along this hillside and takes it down to I can't remember the name of it, but there's a water collection place down off the paper to the left. So this landscape plan is showing keeping a bunch of the existing vegetation and then adding some trees, and there's an existing pathway that you can see that kind of goes around the deck. Just kind of cutting that in and enhancing it a little bit more. And then there's the spa deck that you see there with there's some plantings there in front of it. So we have other drawings that will show the lower deck and skirting. The board is supportive of the standing seam metal roof and the proposed color applicant to provide a lighting plan and exterior lighting included. So we have lighting shown on our elevations. So we can go to next page, please. I think we're going to go to page. We'll keep going. Next page. Next page. We're going to look for the elevations. There we go. So on the upper left corner is a light fixture that we've chosen for the exterior. It's a dark sky rated fixture, downward casting. And then on the elevations, you can see where they're located. On elevations 2 and 4, we've located those. There's one next to the garage door, which was another comment that was asked about as well. There's one next to the front door on elevation 2, and then on elevation 4, there's some outside the sliders, kind of in the middle of the image there. Next slide, please. Or next page. We can skip this. That was the height calculation. Next page, please. And again, elevations 2 and 4, we can just see outside of each of the doors is one of those wall sconces. On elevation 2, there's 2 doors on the lower floor and the middle floor, and then on the upper floor, and then on the right side of the elevation, and then on the left side of the elevation, the same. Here we can see the deck skirting. So we're using a composite decking for the deck, and we're going to use the same kind of skirting or a decking material So it's a composite material that we're going to run as a horizontal kind of a slat member, and then we can have some vegetation growing in front of it. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Here's a couple details just of the railings, typical eave detail, upper right, guardrail detail on the decks and the upper decks, and then the skirting and guardrail deck or guardrail detail for the lower spa deck at the ground level there, at the lower level. Next slide, please. And materials. So we showed much of this last time, but we've added the lower right image is the garage door that we like. It's a wood door with a couple, that's 4 little lights in it to allow light into. So window panes, that's what those are. They look dark black, but they're glass. And then a nice wood sectional door. The colors are called out on the lower left image and the upper right image, and the standing seam roof specification is on there, and the lighting is here. And then the composite decking you can see in the middle. That matches what's already on the building. And then we have the window systems middle right image, far right middle image. That is the window frame style that we're looking at for the project. So this has all the finishes and colors and specifications that were requested on the motion, as well as addressing the garage door. And I think I've gotten through all of the all of the items on the.
I'm going to say your time is up because we're running out of time.
Great.
All right. So bring it back to Ms. Burkhart. Do we have any public comment, please?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the hand icon at the bottom of your screen. While we wait for hands, Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence for this item?
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item, and I do not see any hands raised in the attendees list, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. Bringing it back to the board. Board Member Brentlinger, did you review the minutes and the video?
Yes, I did. Everything.
Okay, great.
And so I'll be brief here. I'd like to ask Mr. Arel to really capsulize his answer to item number 4 under the full board with comments, which had to do with the massing of the existing residents. Could you just really summarize your answer to number 4, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Board Member Brentlinger. We don't want to, every project has a budget, right? So we're trying to simplify. I can't change the bulk and mass of the house. It's already there and we're not adding to it. So our solution is to provide landscaping that breaks down the mass from any visual view of the home, and by adding some trees in front of it and things of that nature. We've looked at change of material and posts and other things. It just didn't, it was either going to spend more money trying to do something that we didn't think was right, or it was, we just didn't like the solution from a architectural standpoint. So the best thing we think for the solution right now is to screen it as best as possible.
And am I correct then that would the specifics to that be the installation of the 2 magnolia trees and the under deck skirting as the 2 actions that were taken?
Yeah, and adding landscaping, and then we skirted the deck, which was a separate comment. But yes, the skirting of the deck will help just keep that one element as the deck for the spa.
Okay, that's all questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
Okay, great. I have no questions at this time either, so I'll bring it back to the board for comments. Mr. Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Only that I was hoping to see more in response to item number 4. I think at the end of the day, perhaps the major answer is that it's hard to see this building from a distance.
Yes.
But I would have liked to have seen more in terms of action items on number 4. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Just that I think that they responded appropriately to the comments, and I'm in support of project design approval and final.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
No, I think also they have responded positively to all our requests, and I think the project conforms to our guidelines. Thank you.
Okay, I would say the same thing. I understand Mr. Brentlinger's concern, but that motion to me was a little odd in that when it was first made, but I think how Mr. Ariel addressed it was appropriate. I feel satisfied by it, but anyway. So that being said, would someone like to craft a motion? Board Member Klein?
Sure, no problem. I'd like to make a motion for project design approval and final with the following comments and findings.
If I could interrupt while we pull up the
Sure,
findings,
please.
Chair Miller
Yes.
and Board Member Klein, we can only grant project design approval today. However, you can continue the project for final on consent if you feel that's appropriate.
Sure.
Why?
Okay, I'd like to make, I think it's just not agendized for final, unfortunately.
It's not agendized, and there's a little more information we'll need. I'll work with you, Mr. O'Rourke.
All right, anything to keep slowing the process down. Sounds great.
So I'll make a motion for project design approval to return to final at consent with the following findings, that the project fits within the natural topography of the site, as well as the building scale fits within the hillside, does not it minimizes the visual appearance of structures and the overall height of structures. And that it's consistent in appearance with the neighborhood, as well as compatible in size, bulk, and scale. Quality architectural materials are being used. It's very much an upgrade in materials. No trees are being impacted. Additional trees are being added. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected. The good neighbor guidelines are followed, and no public views are impacted.
Okay, thank you. May I have a second, please?
I second it.
All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll start the roll call vote. Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
There's a 10-day appeal period for this project, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Burkhardt? Yes. All right, hopefully you'll get on the consent calendar for next week.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
All right, thanks. You too.
Bye.
Record.